Always, every day, no matter what we do. Sounds like a joke, sounds like a humble brag to think that the biggest problem you have once you reach financial freedom is figuring out how to spend money. And it's because real estate investing, you're always going to be broke. Stock investing, you're probably always going to be broke, especially if you're on the financial independence, retire early path where you want to make work optional. And I believe the average person can make work completely optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. So I want to run through exactly why real estate investors are always broke. And the idea with a live stream is you're here to ask questions, to hear other people's questions, and get the answer that a financially free person has and keeps in top of mind awareness. Not a researched video, not a scripted video, but the idea is when you ask questions, what do I keep in top of mind awareness so that I can make quick decisions to acquire the next asset to become financially free or more financially free? So the first reason why real estate investors, and I'm going over this topic in the beginning to give you a chance to get your questions into the comments, is we don't start out as investors. I made it to 40 with pretty much never having $1,000 in the bank. We make the same mistakes. Real estate investors, financially free people make the same mistakes when starting out that almost everyone else does. We have credit cards. We have loans for Sea-Doos or quads or vacations. We get into student loan debt. We chase a career because it's something we want to do, not because it's something it has the most financial return on. One of the reasons why investors feel like we're always broke is because we start out in a hole and we have to climb out of that hole. Very few people pull a Cody and start investing before you can buy beer and own 30 rentals before you can go into a bar legally. Most of us make a lot of those mistakes to where we're starting off in a hole. So when we realize that day where we wake up and we go, okay, I need to take charge of my finances, starting that day, we definitely feel broke because we're trying to tackle the three types of debt. The first debt is bad debt. Step one, stop making more. Bad debt is consumer debt, credit cards, personal lines of credit. Good debt that we want to get into, because if it wasn't for good debt, I would still be working, does put us in debt. And there are some hoops to jump through to get that debt. And then worse debt. This is the debt that we need to focus on first. Most of us, when we realize I need to take charge of my finances, we realize that we have worse debt. Worse debt for me has two major metrics. There might even be more. The first worst debt is debt with an adjustable rate. If you started a build project in 2020 and you have 5% build construction loans, and in the next year and a half, rates almost triple, you're no longer paying 5% for that debt. If you have a personal line of credit that's tied to what the Fed does with interest rates, if you have a home equity line of credit that has an adjustable rate, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, that's worse debt. And so those adjustable rates can include things like a balloon payment or a loan reevaluation period. And the other aspect of worse debt is high interest rate. So even if it has a fixed interest rate debt, if it is fixed rate debt, words are hard. I will blame it on the water that makes my eyes water. Remember, you can't drink all day unless you start early. If you have high interest debt and it's fixed, but it's above 6%, I would focus on taking care of that too. So we wake up that day and we realize I'm going to take charge of my finances, and we have this bad debt, worse debt, and we're trying to get into good debt. So any money that we make, we start making more money. We don't go buy the new Apple Watch. We don't take a Mediterranean cruise. We don't plan a 6-month trip to Thailand. As we start to make more money at work, we take that money, our side hustle, our overtime, or maybe we shifted companies to make more money or learned a new trade or got a new certificate to be more attractive to our employer to increase our income. Well, the people around us start making more money. They don't feel broke. They go into credit card debt. They get a personal line of credit to go on that vacation. An investor puts that off, buys the stocks, buys the real estate, or starts to take care of that bad and worse debt. So increased income doesn't mean increased lifestyle for an investor yet. As we make more money, we're tackling that bad and worse debt. Then we want to figure out how to get into good debt. And for a lot of people, this can be student loans if your college time is dedicated to a field that increases your income and you needed the degree to do that. Sure. It could be you want to buy a house and get on the property ladder. And this is a strong recommendation to do that. And some of the statistics play this out as a good thing to do, whether you're an investor or not. And the simple statistic I'll use is net worth at what people call retirement age, which for me is 10 years after you start investing. But for the people that make these studies, it's around 65. And the net worth of people around 65 who owned a house is $221,000. For renters, it's $6,800. That's a significant difference just to get on the property ladder, which takes working on your credit, working on your debt to income, getting rid of those bad and worse debts, having consistent payments made on time, keeping your credit utilization low, saving what lenders are going to call reserves, right? Dave Ramsey talks about getting an emergency fund, first getting that $1,000, and now with inflation, it's probably $2,000 or 27. But you want an emergency fund so you can handle something like a flat tire, broken window, starter going out in your car, something that you have to take care of so that you can make it to work. Have that emergency fund. So that means if you made more money at work, you're tackling the bad and worse debt. And as you start to get money, you still don't go buy the new VR system. You save an emergency fund. And then lenders will say, sure, you can buy a house, but you need to have 3 months worth of the mortgage saved up in order for us to lend you the money, because banks will say, sorry, we can't lend you money. You need it. So you have to prove you don't need it by having reserves and an emergency fund. So as an investor, when we finally realized I'm going to take care of my finances and we can make more money, side hustle over time, we take care of bad and worse debt. Now we're saving for reserves and emergency fund. We haven't even started saving a down payment or the money to buy stocks with or the money to start and grow a business, right? We're broke all the time as an investor because these first steps haven't even got to the point where we're starting to have money that we can choose what to do with yet. So then when you do start to save money for your investments, that first house hack, right? I saved $28,000 over a period of 2 years while working in a new field, playing World of Warcraft to sell things online as a side hustle to save that money, to have the 5% down on an owner-occupied duplex, which you can now do for a triplex or fourplex. As more money came in, I was still broke because that money went into reserves, emergency fund, down payment, money for closing costs, money for immediate repairs. When you move into a place that people are selling, it's like when you buy a used car. You are buying someone else's headache that they didn't want to fix. Same thing when you buy a property. Your home inspection is not going to be perfect. And it will point out things that you will need to take care of. Sometimes the seller doesn't want to take care of it or won't make a concession on the price, but it's a good enough deal for you to still pursue. So you buy a place that needs work. That first duplex I moved in had over 70 holes punched in the wall in the unit that I moved into. So I got really good at fixing drywall in the next couple of months. No, I got acceptable at doing drywall, and I will always hire somebody else to do it because it's not a skill set of mine. But I had to have the money for those immediate repairs. And the other side had some carpet damage and a couple of other things, so I needed the money to get that fixed up to get it rented out as quick as possible, because you want the money to come in. And when the money does start to come in and you reduce your housing costs with a house hack, or you buy an investment property that starts to cash flow, you don't take that money and go and buy the Apple Watch. You don't take that money and go and book the vacation. You don't take that money and go and treat yourself because you're broke. You have to keep that broke mindset that all of the money coming in is for investing. And then you buy another cash flowing asset. And now, what do you need? Lenders want more reserves because they want at least 3 months, maybe some want 6 months of all of your mortgage payments. And when you have one property, yeah, that's $4,000 to $8,000. But when you start having 2 or 3 properties, and some of them are small multifamily, and some of them have a mortgage of 2 to 3, $3,500 a month mortgage times 3 months, that's 9 grand or more in reserves for one property, and you have two or three. So now that you have more money coming in, what do you need to do? You need to save your reserves. You need to increase your emergency fund, because now a water heater can go out in your house. But like February of 2022, when I was in Portugal, I had, and I can't remember, it was either 3 water heaters and 4 refrigerators, or 4 water heaters and 3 refrigerators go out in my portfolio. My fault for not replacing them sooner. I'll own that. Um, you need the reserves for those things, because Murphy's Law is, if anything can go wrong, it will. Murphy's fourth corollary is, if any sequence of events can go wrong, they will, and in the worst possible order. So as your portfolio grows, you do not now have more cash flow to go out and enjoy life. You have more cash flow to increase your reserves, increase your money for immediate repairs, increase your emergency fund, increase the money for the down payment for the next property, saving for another couple of months, depending on what strategy you're using, or a couple of years. And let's pick on Millennial Mike here for a second. He likes to do the properties that cost less, but he wants to do them faster. So if he takes $68,000 and buys a triplex, and then he puts $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 into repairs, and then he goes out and gets personal loan, private money lenders to lend him money, which he pays 10% on, so the person's getting a good return. He's got the capital back from the investment on the property. You would think, well, now he's got $100,000. That guy's got a lot of money. No, he's not stupid. Mike's broke on purpose because he's smart. He takes the $100,000, buys the next property, puts it in the next deal, increases the reserves, increases the money for down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, and to satisfy lender needs. That money comes in from multiple deals. We could continue to accrue. A while back, I did a video, and I forget the title of it. It was something like, is real estate investing passive? And the short answer, no. No, it's not. Real estate investing is not passive. Real estate ownership can be close to passive. It takes me 2 hours a month to self-manage 16 rental units. That's passive enough for me. A couple $100,000 a year in income that I don't have to sell my life for 1 hour at a time, just a couple hours a month, is passive to me. But investing, studying a market, learning, hunting for deals, developing relationships with lenders and agents, and getting to know tenants and training tenants, and developing all of the systems and strategies. And if you treat your properties like you have 100 and your tenants like one, you will make property strategies based on systems that make it easier to invest, because the easier it is for you to invest, the more likely you are to follow through. At least that's how it works for me, because I'm super lazy. And I know it has to be easy or I wouldn't continue to do it. It'll never be easy, but it has to be as easy as I can make it. And that's what those systems are for. So even the investor that has cash flow coming in has started to make more money at their W-2. In those first 5+ years, we're broke. And if you're not, all you're doing is adding time to how long it takes you to never be broke again. Because I've talked often about, I'm an investor, not an entrepreneur, right? A lot of people say, I want to be an entrepreneur because I don't want a boss. Well, congratulations, everybody with a Yelp account is now your boss. And they say, I don't want a W-2 job because I don't want to work 40 hours a week. Well, congratulations, entrepreneur, now you work 80. Right? So I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be an investor. I took my money and I invested it and I put it to work. So I was always broke. This is the part I want you to take note of. I am not an investor. When we're investing, we study finances, we pick our asset class, whether it's business, stocks, real estate. We study the market, we figure out the strategy that works for us. We save the reserves, the down payment, the closing costs, or the money to invest. We learn the asset class. We've put every extra money that comes in into that asset class to invest. While we're investing, we're broke because we're always investing in the next thing. When we reach financial freedom, when we hit the light at the end of the tunnel, don't go into the light. I needed to know what my freedom number was, and that was how much am I spending every month that I need to live the lifestyle that I want. Video coming out Thursday on, if you don't answer this question, you will never retire. And that's not the question. Then after knowing what I need to spend every month, I had this number will let me retire. And it was a multiple of what I wanted. I wanted about $4,000 a month coming in. That's what I spend because I house hack. I don't have a housing cost. I like to travel to countries like Colombia and Thailand and Portugal and not the places that take a lot of money to go to. So I didn't need a lot, but I didn't retire when I hit 4,000 a month. I hit when I hit what I considered my retirement number, which was 4 times my freedom number. This way I can handle a major health concern, a stock market crash, a prolonged government shutdown, a pandemic, whatever could happen in the future. So when my cash flow passed $16,000 a month, I stopped being an investor. Will I put money to work? Yes, because this is the problem I'm hoping you all have. Money keeps piling up. Will I buy more assets in the future? Yes, because I've learned a skill and I will benefit from it. But am I broke? No. I was broke while I was an investor. Once we reach that financial freedom, here's been the hardest switch in my brain to flip. Stop saving, start spending. While saving, I never had a budget. I didn't want a budget because it was somebody telling me what to do. Even if it was just me telling me what to do, I don't want that. Instead, I house hacked to reduce or eliminate my largest expense so that I could kind of watch the small expenses. But if I got rid of the big ones, I was able to save faster. Again, always broke because I was saving for the next investment. But a decade of learning that skill and having it ingrained that every penny that comes in gets put back to work. It was really hard about that 8-year mark when I thought, okay, I'm now going to split this. A significant recognizable percentage of my income is going to go towards stupid cars, stupid vacations, and what I call reverse budget. I now have a reverse budget. It is I must spend. It's not I can't spend or I shouldn't spend more than. It is I must spend at least $2,000 a month eating out. And it's actually kind of hard to hit that budget sometimes. But I don't want to be frugal in retirement. So the thing was, are investors always broke? Only if they're doing it right. Let me know if my sound's working. Last time I did that, it died on me. So yes, investors are always broke, but there's a reason. If you do it right, eventually you will have the problem that I do now. That one, you never have to work again in your life. You can choose to. I don't because I'm super lazy. Or two, you have to learn how to spend money. And sometimes not on the next investment. Yeah, I purchased a house all cash. Didn't need to. I'm house hacking again. Didn't need to. It's in the area that I wanted. I'm walking distance from the ferry. Got a friend, Dave, coming over tomorrow. We're literally going to walk from my place to the ferry to go to Seattle, to go to lunch on the waterfront. Just because. This is what you can do as you plan your next trip and take the trip to the Mediterranean, do, I don't know, 13, 14-day cruise, whatever it was, because I'm no longer an investor. If you are an investor and you are spending money, even money from assets on stupid things like a vacation, like a cruise, like a more car than you need, you're just making how long you need to be an investor longer. Let me get to the questions. And these live streams tend to last as long as the questions do. I appreciate you coming. It's every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. I do these every week. Ryan, the piano man, will watch in Futureland. Thank you. Jason was almost first. Dividend Dave. Howdy, old guy REI. I almost wore your swag, your shirt tonight, Frank. But I didn't want to have it on today while I was doing this. Butcher Block is a rental unit, food grade polyurethane. Figured, why mess up good clothes? Wealth building journey will be a little bit late today. End of year, end of fiscal. Is this end of fiscal year? I thought that was like October. Ninja Vanish, hello, howdy. Howdy, Yuri, Wayne, Buzz Toon, Elentino, howdy, Judah. Mick, hello from Southern California. I'm very sorry for where you live. I grew up in Rosemont and Palmdale. So very happy to be out of the desert. Joined the Marines to get out of the desert. They put me in 29 Palms in Saudi, Kuwait, and everywhere where there's just dirt. So that's why I live in Washington now. Howdy, Michelle. How's your 1031 going? Julie, hi. Don't answer if you don't want to, but if you could ask Donald Trump any real estate question, what would it be? I will answer political questions because I'm not growing a YouTube channel because I need the money. I don't care if my channel gets canceled. That's why actually I did a bunch of on the street videos in Vegas, and my final question was Trump or Biden? There were a lot of people who said Trump. There were zero people who said Biden. Anybody who said Biden said, well, you vote for the party, not the person. Couldn't get one person to say they would vote for Biden. So, what would I ask? I'm going to have to think about that because I'm guessing I'd probably only have a shot for one question. What would I ask Trump? That is a great question. I don't know. That's great. How did you find your tax guy? Because the study I saw, not study, the interviews I saw where somehow Trump's four years of Trump's taxes were released, and 3 years he didn't pay any taxes. In 1 year he paid like $720. I want to know if he fired the guy that where he had to pay $720. Because as a real estate investor, I make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I can imagine if he's making tens of hundreds of millions or whatever Trump makes. Our tax code is designed to where if you invest in real estate with levered depreciation, you don't pay any taxes. So the year that he paid 700 and something, that'd be what I want to know. Did you fire that guy? Was he the weakest link? Jada. So I was looking at this house with an ADU in the back, and I've noticed it's been on the market for 350 days. It's built in the 1930s and hits almost all your checklists. Should I do a seriously low offer? So 350 days, I probably, yeah, it means I keep relisting it. I would probably have my agent reach out and ask the listing agent if there's anything like, is this in probate? Is there an LLC with multiple owners trying to make a decision? What can they find out about the property? The built in 1930 is not a problem to me. It's when were the updates done. Could have knob and tube. It could have all the plumbing could need to be replaced. When were updates done? That would matter to me. If it hits all of my boxes, I would make a seriously low offer. Never ask for what you want, right? Never split the difference. So if it's listed for, we'll use round numbers, 100,000, 350 days on the market. I'm using 100 because we can basically use percents then. What would the cash flow look like if you offered 60, 70, or 80%, and which one gets you the return that you're looking for? And then I would include contingencies, right? I want a financing contingency. Maybe there's an issue with that. I want an inspection contingency, and then I would want to, of course, have title insurance to check. Is there a reason it's on the market and everybody else is backing away? Is it septic in a system that's failed, so now it needs to tie into city? And if it needs to tie into city, what's the impact fee? How many ERUs is the property equivalent, residential equivalent unit, whatever that ERU is? Does the city require anything? You can reach out to the city and say, hey, if I buy this property, is there anything that's required? You can do things like they want you to tie into sewer and run the sewer past your property to the next property, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? So there could be a reason. So I'd make sure to have your contingencies in there and have your inspection. I'd probably at least do the full 10-day. There was a question a week or so ago. I think somebody asked, is it normal to have a 5 or a 10-day inspection? And a 10-day inspection to me is normal. When we get more into a seller's market to have a more attractive offer, I have done a 5-day inspection offer as long as I know my inspectors are available and I can make a quick decision. So have your contingencies in place. Talk to your agent, have transparency. Now, if you're going through your agent, make sure they understand why you're making the offer. If you're going to the listing agent, you can ask all the questions directly yourself if you're not using an agent. Remember that agent has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller, not to you. So you need to do your own due diligence, and then use your math, not math. Explain your logic with the offer you're submitting. I want to offer this amount because this is the numbers that make sense to me, and it's been sitting for 350 days. And here's what, if you find comps or anything like that, you can forward that. That's what I did. My last couple of places that I got offers accepted on, they were on the market over 100 days and I made really low offers. But I used my own agent and I made sure that he understood I'm making low offers. I don't want you to do extra work. I'm doing an offer that they're unlikely to accept, right? They might counter and then I might change, but if I get this accepted, I'll do the deal at this. Even if I find things out during an inspection, this deal made it good enough for me. Laura, howdy. Legacy OPP, howdy. Yep, Jason says to lowball it. I believe so. All-nighter hider, smoke the like button like Cheech and Chong. Except Dave's here, man. Aloha from Hawaii, financial firefighter. Howdy. Mark. In 2 or 3 weeks, if you're available at Tuesday at 4, you should be on my live stream with me and answer questions. All-nighter hider. My last tire issue was on the way to Arkansas and cost $750. That's why we need to be ready for it. Manuel, howdy. Cheers. Learning how to fix your car is a flex that helps. Learning how to do repairs yourself helps when you are a new investor. There was quite a few times where I worked next to my handyman, and actually today I went with a handyman that was doing a sink install, sink, faucet, vanity, to watch the copper work. I hadn't done much copper work, and when that's all PEX to then the little 90-degree copper, I wanted to see. He wasn't sweating the copper. He was doing the PEX lock in place, and that was a lot simpler than I was expecting. I always thought there was some kind of literally more to it than click and it works. But I still do that. So I wanted to know. I've had plumbing work done before, but this time I wanted to watch and learn the skill. And you never know in the future when it could either be something you do yourself or something where you realize the estimate that I'm getting doesn't seem to fit the amount of work I think it's going to take to get this done. Bill O'Connell, howdy. Stephen, old guy. Sean, howdy. Duplex Dave. Question. What application do you use to watermark your listing pics? I will show you. So I go to Canva, and you can see all my thumbnails I've ever made, but let's just say I want to watermark a picture. It looks like something that's got a picture. So if I want to do this, take the words out here, put it in an angle. So let's say this was not my final resting place, but this was one of the rentals that I was going to list. I put it out here. My email, I'd probably change the font to something else. I go over here to transparency, turn that down. Voila, watermark. Do it 3 or 4 times because you're not trying to make it impossible for them to use a picture. You're just trying to make it more work than going to Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, or apartments.com and stealing pictures of your photos that don't have watermarks in it, and then posting your rentals for scamming somebody else. So put the watermarks in several different places. You can change the size, change the colors. You can make it look more like a watermark if you want, right? So that way, if somebody's seeing the image, they make it really stand out if you want. You make the transparency a little more. Just play with it until it's what you want. So you can still see the image, but you can see all of the things that you're looking to do there. So that's how I do watermarks in my rentals so that I don't have always get retail schemed. And there we go. Whoops. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question, Duplex Dave. Canva, canva.com. It has a free. I've never paid for the the fancier things. There's actually an official watermark that if you pay for Pro, and you can remove images to get your if you like wanted a picture of me without the background, you can take out the background and make it transparent, so you can put the pictures in there. But for that, I use remove.bg, and that will remove the backgrounds from photos too, all for free. Jason, you installed and sealed the counters yourself. Yes, the super lazy person installed, sealed, what I want to say myself, but the REI Stoners, Martin Properties, Josh and Mary, super cool people, did their countertops not too long ago based on Matt the Lumberjack Landlord's course. And they came over and helped me do it. Now, to go off of Matt's, we were going to use, it's not polyurethane, it's not lacquer, it's something else. You pour on, spread it around. And I don't have the skill, and we didn't seal the wood, so air bubbles were a problem. So what I did is I flipped it over and I went with food grade polyurethane, a lot easier to do, a lot harder to mess up. Probably not as durable, but I had Beth Traverso on here a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully she comes back. I enjoy it when she comes. She is a mountain of knowledge. She does quartz countertops, and they're about $4,000, so it's a good value for the higher end houses that she does. But I'm all in C-class properties, so it wouldn't make sense to spend $4,000. I'll spend $400 on the butcher block, do the cutting myself, hire a handyman to do that if you want, polyurethane it. I think I'm doing it on all countertops going forward if I ever replace, because I haven't replaced very many. This is just the 2 units at this duplex I'm doing new countertops. And first set of cabinets I had installed. My friend Chesela has worked at a cabinet factory, so she knows how to get the leveling done and secure. So we installed the cabinets on the other unit. And so sometimes it's a lot easier to hire somebody to do these things. But when you're around, it's a nice skill to have. And then, again, in the future, when I go, I want to have a set of cabinets installed, and somebody comes back with $300 a box, I could say, well, that's literally 100% more than it should cost. And I know now how long it takes, how hard it is. So yes, Jason, the lazy investor did something. It is a very sad day. Lumberjack, good looking kitchen and butcher block. Yes, based on Matt's recommendations. Stephen, and then my chat moved, which I appreciate, means questions are coming. I got to ask you a question later. Well, there you go, Stephen. You can ask him anytime, but I'm hoping he'll be on my channel here for you to ask questions of in the future. Closing on 2 duplexes in the next week or so, doubled cash flow from replaced property, tripled total cash flow. Now we'll have 3 duplexes. That is phenomenal. Congratulations. That is how you do it. This is not how I did it. That's much more impressive than what I've done. Good job. And you have some more white hairs and some wrinkles. It was so easy. Yes. Remember, it will never be easy, but you can do things to make it easier. I mean, a 1031 exchange to get rid of a property that wasn't performing very well and to get those new properties, well, it's not easy. It is a lot easier than saving 3 new down payments on 3 new duplexes. Deconstructing Dreams is listening to me like a chipmunk right now. Matthew, late to the party, was watching Fat Electrician talk about dogfighting Russian MiGs during Vietnam War. Yeesh. I have no stories like that. I was a tow gunner, and I have learned that you cannot share any of your stories because you lose friends. Gallows humor doesn't seem to work at all times. If you do solder copper, make sure to clean the flux off afterwards. Yeah, we didn't. That same handyman is gonna teach me the copper working in future land. But no, this one was kindergarten simple. Like pop on the valves. I don't know how they stay. I don't understand it. And okay, just jumped on to say howdy. I am going to watch soccer at 10 o'clock at night soon because I want to see Anna play. Peter, with rates being so high, would you make extra payments to attack the principal in a house hack duplex? Also, when rates come down, would it make sense to refi as well? So I had duplexes with rates above 6. And in 2020, I refinanced when rates dropped to 3. I probably would have refinanced at 4, but they went down fast enough to where I got at 3. So if it's more than, I think the rule of thumb is more than a full basis point lower, people would refinance. I think you look at how long you are into the mortgage, it does reset the interest. What's it going to do to the cash flow on the property? And how big of a, I waited till I wanted at least 1.5% lower on annual rate, but I got more than 3. So timing it can help. So would I refi to bring down the price? Yes, because I don't care about having paid off properties. And I don't think I would make extra payments because I paid off a property one time and it cost me over $1 million. If you pay down a property, you've already paid the cost of acquiring that debt, right? You bought down the rate, you paid the closing costs, you paid the loan origination fees. So you've already had that expense for now debt that is there. If it's adjustable rate, yes, I'd probably tackle it. But if it's just a high rate, what's the yield on the property? Hopefully you didn't buy an alligator already, right? So it should be a cash flowing. You should be getting the yield that you were looking for, even with the high rates. That's why we bought it. That's why the price that we paid made sense. Versus, so if you pay it off, those are the things that happen. If you buy another property, you start another iteration of levered depreciation. I did a whiteboard video a couple weeks ago on why I pay nothing in taxes. So if you buy a property all cash, you're probably going to pay taxes, which is not a bad thing. It just means you're probably going to be paying taxes. But levered depreciation, you start a whole new cycle. You start appreciation on multiples of what you invest versus paying off the property. You're only going to gain appreciation on the amount that you pay down. To me, it almost always makes sense while growing a portfolio to acquire the next rental property, the next asset. If you reach stabilization phase and you are retired, yes, you can do the Cody and Christian multifamily strategy where eventually you get to debt destruction, right? You sell some properties to pay off debt, you refinance to pay off debt, you focus cash flow to pay off debt because you're not trying to grow anymore. But while you're growing, in my opinion, it's almost always, right? And the less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt he is to look foolish in retrospect. But you're almost always making the mistake if you pay down debt, unless it has a really high interest rate, right? Above maybe 10% on a mortgage, or you're not cash flowing, or it has an adjustable rate. Or you have a balloon payment coming. Those are the types of loans that I won't do, but that's when I would be tackling debt. Art, howdy. I always wondered why the flooring cost so much. Then I did 800 square feet and realized why after my back felt like I got ate with the truck. Yes, hunt for several estimates on flooring. I've seen $2 a square foot to $4 a square foot on install. And I've had estimates come in on this last flooring job that I had. They were quite a range, $550 to, I think, what was the highest? I want to say $4,000, but that wasn't. That was the electric bid. That was stupid. Because the other electric bid was $734. $4,000, $734. Which one did I go with? Either one would have passed inspection. So, John, Texas, howdy. You've covered some of this before, but could you talk about what happens when you started a business? What happened and why? Okay. Without depressing myself too much, because I am not an entrepreneur. First business was furniture delivery. First business that I, as an adult, like I've started several as a teenager that didn't go anywhere. But furniture delivery was doing pretty good. I had an ex that emptied the wages account and the tax account. So I had to shut down the business and then spend months making enough money to actually close the business. Ouch. It is best to choose a spouse that is going in the same direction as you financially than to choose a spouse that looks good going in any direction. There's a short for you. But the last one is this is where I realized I'm not an entrepreneur. So I was running the CDL school and I had some ideas that really grew the company, really good at management, really good at getting people to want to do a good job. You can't tell or make somebody do a good job, but you can make them want to do a good job. So I got really good at that. And there's a driver shortage. Companies are trying to grow, but I was running a CDL school that was training over 2,000 students a year, so I had access to drivers. So I started a trucking company. And anybody who's done trucking will tell you that if you have one truck, you're a wage slave. If you have 2 trucks, you're probably going to lose money. If you have 3 trucks, you might start to make money. There's a weird thing that happens once you get past 3 trucks. And I did it all wrong. I wasn't involved in the day-to-day. I hired somebody for dispatching that didn't know what they were doing. Instead of spending the right amount of money on them, on the right person, I tried to pay the drivers hourly because that was my problem with over-the-road companies is they pay by the mile. And if you're getting paid by the mile, you're getting ripped off. They're only doing that so that they can avoid the federal regulations of paying you overtime. Uh, so I basically lost money. I put $100,000 into the company and I had $100,000 as reserve. I was basically looking at it like I could buy a couple of duplexes or I could try this trucking company. Put 100,000 in and I tracked I was losing 15 to 20 a month. And when I figured out what it would take for me to kill the company, break the leases legally, pay the amount to break the leases, it basically cost me the $200,000 to shut down the business. Uh, I don't ever want to own a business. Not my thing. My thing is buying an asset that cash flows, maintaining it, and keeping happy tenants because happy tenants don't trash your place and happy tenants don't leave. And that cash flow sets us free. So I will never say investing in stocks doesn't work or running a business doesn't work. What I will say is I am not a stock investor or a person that should be running a business for myself. I happily grew a business for somebody else. And I see BuzzTune did a super chat for, doesn't let me like it anymore. They used to have the little heart and the like. Weird. Thank you, BuzzTune. Did you have a question here? Because I don't want to miss it if there is. Oh, I appreciate the support. So John, Texas, I hope that helps you understand why I'm not an entrepreneur. One of the main reasons. Julie, if and Everett go to 1611 for dinner, wear your nice sweatshirt. There you go. I'm trying to think of the last time I was in Everett. It's weird. My flooring guy is from Everett, the one that got the right bid, because found on Thumbtack. Everett seems like a very far away, but he had the best price. Robert, howdy. Adding on to Peter's M's question in a similar boat at 7.75 rate, 15% equity, want to pay extra principal to get 25% to kill PMI and hopefully get a better rate. So it's conventional, hopefully not FHA, because FHA PMI doesn't go away. And remember, as soon as you hit 22%, you can usually get PMI off of your mortgage. If you put down 20% or more, you don't get PMI. But if you have PMI, you have to get to 22% for lenders to pull it off. They say it's automatic, but you have to ask. How much is the PMI? 7.75 does seem to be a fairly high rate. Is it a DSCR loan? Is it commercial? Is there a reason? Because I'm not sure if it's small multifamily and not owner occupied. 7 something seems about right. How many years have you had the loan? And could you acquire something else that started a new depreciation schedule, more appreciation, more principal pay down, more cash flow without paying down the debt you already have? Michelle says, yes, it was definitely easier than saving since rents are way below market. Next year, I will be smiling even more. I wonder if there's a strategy where you can get your tenants to ask you to raise the rent. You should look into that. Jared, my Arizona house is $350 a square foot for flooring. How many quotes, how many estimates did you get? Because I had 3 and 4, and then the last one was $1,550, so that would be about $210 a square foot. And there was some weird, each room was at a different elevation, so they did some really kind of cool toe kick angles to make the doors work. Tenant gave me the owner's number. Is it okay to call? I would probably text before I would call. But yes, Jada, that is something I would do. Reach out. It never hurts to ask. What are they going to do? Not answer. They might say, I get too many questions. Stop asking. Okay. Apologize. Frank had his old guy REI shirt on today too, but didn't want to get it dirty, so he just didn't go to work. I like it. That is a solid plan. I'm trying to think. Why am I doing some of this myself? I have a handyman here that could do it. I don't know. I think it's because the handymen and the contractors are fighting permit timelines. And so there's things that I can get done, like cabinets, uh, countertops, that kind of stuff. John, Texas, yes. That's the cool thing with having memory issues. You just speak transparently because you're never going to be able to remember what you said. So just say the truth. And if you like it and it helps you, great. And if you just think I'm retarded, that's fine too. Doing flooring is basically doing burpees all day. It's brutal till the body builds those muscles. There's a gentleman who is retired who does some carpet work for me, and I only put carpet on stairs. And one time I had him do LVP because he said, "Hey, you're doing LVP. I could kind of use the money." And I was like, "All right, sure." He looks like Mr. Burns. He's in his late 60s or 70s, and he's got that question mark shape until he picks up an 80-pound thing of flooring and he flops it over his shoulder and he stands up straight and he goes off and off he does it. And yeesh, no, thank you very much. I'm half tempted to do some LVT myself in one of my units just because I've never done it. We'll see. Sam, howdy. Can you tell how to differentiate between a double wide manufactured home and other stick built homes that sits on a block and beam from their look before you buy? I want to say yes. You can almost always tell if it's a double wide, almost always, right? But sometimes you could see a pre-manufactured house that looks like a double wide. So you can misgender your home. So before you buy, what I would do, because this question kind of came up the other day, so thank you for asking this. It's not so much that I have a preference over mobile home versus stick built versus prefab versus whatever you want to call it. The main difference is what are your goals with the property and current lending allowances. There are years when lenders will not lend on a mobile home. And then they'll say, well, we'll lend if it's not been moved more than twice. And then, right, so there it comes down to, I've seen in certain areas, mobile homes appreciate just like a stick built. Right. There was a house that sold for 300 and something thousand, a couple houses away, a double wide sold for 300 and something thousand, exact same size lots in very similar areas. Um, but there are those years where you can't get lending. So if you're going to be making an offer on something that you can't tell if it's a stick built on foundation because it looks like a mobile home, has the same shape and design and that look, or if it is a mobile home, make sure you have a financing contingency, right, to make sure that you can back out without losing your earnest money if you need to. And this short that I did this as released as a short the other day. And what was the short? It was, I've never looked at a property without making an offer on it first. And I got a lot of hate comments. And it's really cool when you make shorts. It kind of goes out to the people who watch your content first. So the first 20 comments are usually like, oh, that's kind of a funny way of looking at it. I never thought of that. But then YouTube tries it out on new people. And when they hear just the blanket statement of like, I always make offers on properties and I've never looked at one beforehand. It just sounds stupid. It sounds cocky. It sounds like you're going to make a mistake, right? But if you watch the content and you've seen the longer videos, you know that that's taken out of context and that's why you do shorts, is to create that mystery. But if I'm going to make 20 offers and I want to go and take 20 to 30 minutes to go look at 20 properties before I make an offer, I'd never do anything. I'd never get anything done. And while investing, when investing is time consuming, ownership is not, I was working full time and raising 3 kids. So I made sure that my agents knew I'm not making 20 offers that are over asking, waiving contingencies, more than likely going to get accepted. I'm making 20 offers based on what I can tell from a website, my knowledge of the area average rents, and good and bad neighborhoods, make the offer, and then on the rare 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 40 that get accepted, now I'll go look at it. And then all that time, only one time did I ever back out after having an offer accepted and going and looking at the property. I would make sure that I'm doing that with something that you can't tell from a photo if it's a double wide And you can't always tell because sometimes people will put in a double wide and basically pour a foundation around it with air vents. So it looks like it's sitting on a foundation, but it's still a double wide. And then to understand that municipalities don't like mobile homes. And we actually lose 2% of our trailer parks every year to attrition because most municipalities won't let you add a new one. Because when you build a house, it is an upgrade to the property, which increases your property taxes. If you have a mobile home, and generally trailer parks bring in families, so you have kids using the education system, you have families using state benefits, medical, EBT, whatever it is, but their building structure that they're living in is not increasing the revenue for the city. So you'll have cities very reluctant to have you add mobile homes. They don't all say no, but it's a little harder to get put in. So it's once you're under contract that you using the inspector to confirm what you know about the property. You have an appraisal contingency, and you are totally fine to back out if it's not the one that you want when you make the offer. And you can actually ask your agent, look, I'm looking at making this offer. I don't want to buy double wides. I want stick built. It can look like a prefab. That's fine. But if it's a mobile home, I'm probably going to back out. And maybe your agent just reaches out and says, hey, what kind of house is this? And then still confirm, because agents don't know everything either. When your home inspector's there, have them confirm what type of property it is. JR, howdy. Can you speak on your business plan and if it has changed over the years? So in the course class this last week, which I have not uploaded the future land video of it, we did how to run it like a business. And it was the business plan and talking of the funnel for contractors, agents, lenders, tenants, lead source, your conversion point on how to turn a contractor you met into one you work with, how to turn your tenants, applicants into your tenants, how to screen out the tenants that you don't want to be that go through your conversion point, how to put the systems in place once you're past the conversion point to make self-managing your rentals as easy as possible so that it's never going to be easy, but it's as easy as possible so that you're more likely to add more units in the future. And so the business plan has always stayed the same. The strategy has shifted. When I first started, I thought I want to do single family homes because I understood that when I lived in it, I thought I'd just buy one, live in it a couple of years, rinse and repeat, buy one every couple of years. 10 years, I'd have 5. They don't cash flow in my area, so I shifted to small multifamily. Here's the business plan for lead sources changed about 2 years ago. So for 10 years, the business plan on lead sources on properties was I'm hunting on the MLS and I want to be fast. If I have 3 or 4 agents with auto searches set up, and whoever sends me the deal first is the one that's going to get the work. I make my offer as fast as possible for 2 reasons. One, I want to get on the seller's radar before they realize how many offers they're going to get. So they might accept my offer and I get sunk cost theory because they're working with me. So even if a better offer comes in, they might not back out and take it. Second reason, I want my offer in fast because then if the seller gets a better offer, a lot of times make an over offer price to get the deal closed, to get the deal under contract, and then they browbeat the seller on concessions. So once I make an offer and they receive a better offer, I'll reach out and say, or have my agent reach out and say, my offer still stands in case that first offer falls through. So half my portfolio up until 2020 was acquired by being in second position. They accept somebody else's offer, but mine is still there. A couple days later, that person either wanted too much, found out something about the property they didn't like, and backed out. So then my offer was accepted. That's what worked for a decade. The last couple of years, because prices are high and interest rates are high, speed is no longer my friend. I shifted my business plan from watching and making really fast offers to watching days on market. I did a couple of things, but the first one was I switched to days on market. And the idea was to learn how many days average days on market your area is. And so mine, it was 6 to 9. So my original thought was I'm going to go look for everything that's on the market over 30 days. But even over 30 days, things were still getting decent offers. So I shifted it to 91 days. An agent that works for a brokerage here lists properties for 90 days. If it's listed again after 90 days, they relisted it. So 91 days meant to me, it's been on, they didn't get what they wanted, and they relisted. And so I started watching over 90 days, found a couple that were over 100 days on market. So that was my shift in speed to days on market. The other thing I did was remote work has changed the landscape. So remote workers can live up to 45 minutes, an hour further out from the major employment hubs in your area, because now they're only going into the office once or twice a week or not at all. But they still need to be close enough to the company in case they need to go in for a meeting or something, so they can move further out. But they don't want to buy, because what happens if their employer calls them back to the office next year? Now they've got a house. They don't want to be a landlord. They own it out too far. So they'll move out further and rent. So about 45 minutes away from where I was investing, rents have pushed up, prices haven't. So I looked out and I found out about 11 new markets. I hunted through until I found two that made sense. First off, I would live in these two because I was looking at a possible house hack. And second, the rents, the population, the economic drivers, all the other check boxes that I was looking for, enough of them were there. To where I started looking in those two markets and found deals that made sense and started making offers. So lead source shifted. I still use multiple agents. I still get multiple offers. I still have the same order of operations for lending to get the best rates every time. I'm trying to think of if anything else has shifted in the business model. So when I retired, at the beginning of this video, I talked about I'm no longer an investor. I will put money to work. Great deals will pop up. My money will pile up and I've got to put it somewhere. But I'm not actively living that broke life so that I can build reserves, down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, and down payment for the next thing, like broke all the time so the next deal can happen. Once I reached financial freedom, which was 4 times my cost of living coming in, and I don't have to sell my life for that money, I will invest, but I'm not an investor. That's the business shift. And so never compare year 10 to year 1. When you were in growth phase, you should be living like you're broke for at least 5 years. No vacations, no fancy cars. If you eat out, it's the appetizer or the dollar menu. You can food prep, meal prep. You can, shop it and for the things to eat at home. All that was those 5 years go like that. But not forever, just for now. Thank you, Tiana. That was a great question. Michelle, I might know of a course for anyone wondering. Here's the link. Thank you. That is how you take the free course to get your tenants to ask you to raise the rent. JD, you will keep me updated. Thank you. I appreciate it. Jay, howdy. I heard the Jay Powell say the Fed cannot impact house prices, but they can impact rents. How would they do that? The Fed can impact rents. I would have to, I have no idea. So they can impact home prices by dropping the rates. It'll cause prices to go up. Raising the rates doesn't cause home prices to go down. It causes transactions to go down. The number of homes purchased will be less. But how can they impact rents? The Fed can't impact rents. They might be referring to rent control on a state level or on a federal rent control, nationwide rent control, which makes owners like me richer and more tenants homeless. I don't know if you know that or not, but rent control is awesome for landlords. Makes you stupid rich. I don't know why people keep voting in and thinking it protects tenants. I am making $3,200 more a month, because rent control was on the ballot this year. Ballad? So that's when you sing, right? Ballot with a T. There you go. Words are hard. What's it mean when your water needs a chaser? How could the Fed impact rents? I'm going to ask the smart people I know. Lumberjack landlord Michael Zuber. How would the Fed impact rents? Now, higher interest rates makes it harder to buy. Harder to buy means less home buyers, means more renters increasing rents. So high interest rates does cause rents to go up. Low interest rates could mean more people would buy, but would that reduce the number of renters? Seems like supply and demand would, but a lot of that would be the move-up buyer. So you're taking homeowner to homeowner with a bigger property. You'd have more entry-level homes, which, yeah, interesting question. How could the Fed impact interest rents? That's a great question. I will run that by the smart people that I know, because I'm not the smart person. Robert, The 7.75 was a close in December. And that is a handyman calling me. 2 seconds. I normally wouldn't do that. Sorry for the dead air. But when somebody's working for you, they have a priority. Close in December, Continental with local bank. Goal to refi is lower monthly payment and build equity faster to pull cash out on second quicker. I don't like pulling cash out, especially when rates are high. I've never pulled out cash, even when it was low. I just did rate and term refis. And if you closed in December or you refi now, I don't know that there would be a lot of equity unless you paid it down, and then you're just throwing money, bad money after worse instead of buying something else. Yeah, I'm not a fan of refinancing that soon after closing. You could talk to your lender and find out if there is a way to recast it if you put money into it, and then how much it would take instead of refinancing to get the PMI off. Never hurts to talk to your lender, but I wouldn't make any moves yet. Jared, I just did a drive by my Glendale house and it looks like I don't have to do an eviction. Awesome. Does that mean they're gone or you think they're going to pay? Josh, Sam, you can usually tell it's a mobile home because the bottom 3 feet or so has skirting. Skirting is usually metal and it keeps critters from getting underneath the home and insulates the cold. Yes, so you can usually tell if it's a mobile home. What you can't tell is if it's a mobile home and they put in a foundation with the air vents to make it look not like a mobile home, but it's still a mobile home. I've seen it. That's why I still have that inspection contingency there. Robert, I want to be financially free in 8 to 10 years. Great goal. It's not going to happen overnight. And you have said before that recycling capital leads to exponential growth in 10 years. So that's why I want to recycle capital. So recycling capital leads to exponential growth in 10 more years than the 10 it takes to reach financial freedom. Obviously, I haven't been clear with that. So Lumberjack Landlord and Michael Zuber have over 100 units, right? 20 years of investing. So the 10 years to reach financial freedom is recycling cash flow. You'll have a smaller unit count, but much bigger margins. I'm getting well over $1,000 a unit in cash flow. If I were to recycle capital, I'd be getting half or a third of that. I'd have more units, but I'd have a lot less cash flow, and I would have added another 10 years to my retiring early plan, 5 to 10 years at least. So recycling capital ends with more units, more cash flow, but takes at least twice as long to get there. Millennial Mike, howdy, goat status, Dion. Who was it? It was Angel that called me La Caprita, which means the little girl goat. Deconstructing dreams. Your video on the whiteboard using the basis for depreciation to show not having to ever pay taxes was very informative. It was the best explanation I have heard on the subject. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't do whiteboard very often because it takes me so long to get this stupid thing down and put it back up. But every now and then, it's just not going to make sense in words. You need to see the physical examples in writing. Rob, I have to start over. Okay. Let me hit the rewind button. Julie, if you have a loan coming due, you will have to refinance at a higher rate. Yeah, loan coming due meaning a balloon payment or an adjustable rate. And why did my computer, there we go, just changed where my chat was going. Lumberjack landlord, variable rate debt. So commercial debt is what he was referring to, not residential 30-year fixed rate debt. Most rentals are commercial debt. I missed something here. Yep. Mobile and manufactured are different. There you go. Wealth building journey done with work for now, but not today. Rob, Dion, are you almost done with your burr? I believe we will have it buttoned up within a week. I hate to say it that way. I think it should be 2 weeks, but within a week. So almost done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Water heater and refrigerator get delivered tomorrow. That shall be installed Friday. Trim Thursday or Friday. I have everything it takes to do the trim, but the trim is fairly easy and fairly profitable for the handyman. And I think I want him to make the money. This isn't a lazy thing. This is you did some hard work for me. Here's an easy job. That's how I like to do it. That's what keeps him coming back. And my good looks. I blame that on the water. Good evening, Dion and everyone. There's a Robin Williams moment for you. So yes, Rob, it's getting there. And I think it was only 4 months longer than anticipated by the contractors I talked to when we started. Almost in line with what I thought. I figured it would take about a year. A year would be June or July. I forget when I closed on it. I'll have to check. So 10 months-ish, and everyone said 6. John, Texas, what are the closing costs on a no cash out refi? And did you restart with a new 30 years? Yes, you do restart with a new 30 years when you refinance to a new rate. At least I did. In some cases, you can have very minimal fees. I paid for an appraisal. I think that was about, what did I pay? It was like $1,200. Yeah. I didn't have anything. I didn't have to buy the rate down again. That was what the rates were at the time. It was already an owned thing. So both three, trying to think if any of my refinances, because I did half my portfolio in 2020. No, I don't think any of them went over $1,500 to refinance. Cash flow increase was about $800 a unit. Like a month and a half later, I recouped my funds. Actually, sooner than that, because when you refinance, it starts a new mortgage. When you start a new mortgage or when you close on a property, you don't have a mortgage payment until the first full calendar month from your closing has passed. Yeah, for me, it was just appraisal. And that I probably could have argued and not done the appraisal because it was already my name. We'd already had massive appreciation. I'd owned them for years. Uh, I was just excited at the rate and I wanted to lock it in. So I was like not complaining about anything. I was like, nope, just do it. I don't care. Take all my monies because I'm broke. Because at that time I was an investor. You should be broke when you're an investor. Robert. Well, I'm on year 4 now, so I'm fine with that as long as I retire before 40. So cash out refi is fine with me based on my goals. Yeah, there you go. So, and that's the thing. There is no one right way. There is a one right way for you. I don't think anybody should watch me and go, I'm doing everything he did, or anybody should watch Matt and go, I'm doing everything he did, or Mike, right? It's you watch the REI Avengers and probably some other content, you listen to Beth, and you take a little bit from each person, you put it together as this is the menu of ways of investing that works for the goal you have with your resources and your timeline. Jared, you asked him to be out by the 13th. Nice. I have a tenant moving out April 1st that gave notice and plenty of time. And so I'm looking forward to that. That is actually going to be another. It's almost like owning real estate is good for you. That is going to be a significant increase in rent when that happens too. Kamar, howdy. When one has a stable job, any thoughts on investing in A-class property that breaks even but would have price appreciation? Does your crystal ball work better than mine? So here's why I don't like A-class properties. I don't like A or B, and appreciation for me has happened more in Class C than in any other asset class in my area. You're break even with a Class A, and you have a good stable job. So you're going to buy a property that's Class A, and you're going to break even. Now, if that tenant gets laid off, or their company moves away or shuts down, it's really hard to replace an income when you live in a Class A place. If you make $150,000, $200,000 a year, and your industry, like when tech starts laying off, it's not easy to just switch companies because everybody was laying off. But when you have somebody in your property that makes $50,000 to $110,000 a year, that teacher, that cop, that first responder, that construction worker, just the average everyday person in my area, that's 50 to 110,000. There are some areas where it's 30 to 60, and there's some areas where it's 250. But I want that average income, the mode income, the most common income in an area to be my tenant. Because when they get laid off or their company shuts down or moves away, unemployment will pay the rent. And replacing a $60,000 a year job is a lot easier, no matter what your skill is. You can go out and start driving trucks and get a $30,000 a year raise locally. And I've had tenants lose jobs, get divorced, and never miss a rent payment versus that Class A. So even if it made money, I'm not a Class A fan. And break even, I don't like, because let's say you're buying the Class A and it's break even. How much are you having to put down? If you're not owner occupying, it's somewhere between 10 to 25%, depending on the loan product you're using, of a Class A property. That could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're tying up to break even because you're counting on appreciation. So here's where it makes sense. Not the stable job, right? If you're like me and you have 18 units, 16 are rented out, and I'm financially free and I don't need money, I still wouldn't do that. If I'm going to take my money out of the bank and I'm going to move it into a property, hopefully you understand that concept. When we buy a property, we do not spend any money. We just move it. It's still there. It's still yours. It's just in a property, not the bank. And you put it in that property. I want it to give me a yield. If you are the size of Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time, his portfolio, or Matt the Lumberjack Landlord's portfolio, or in maybe 5 years, what Millennial Mike's portfolio will be the size of, and you make an appreciation play with a small percent of your portfolio. So if you have $30,000 a month coming in cash flow and you take some money that doesn't impact you in any way and you could burn it, it's disposable income, and you put it into a property on an appreciation play, and if you lost it all, who cares? Because your other portfolio is large enough to give you freedom to continue to grow on its own. That's when appreciation plays make sense. That's the investor that can, I don't want to say gamble, but not care if it works out or not, because appreciation is not guaranteed. Cash flow is more predictable. So appreciation is part of an internal rate of return. Cash flow is part of your yield, your cash on cash return. Cash on cash return is best used to project next year. Internal rate of return is best used to understand last year. So, probably not the answer you were looking for. Sorry. Again, no one right way. There are people who have done that and been just fine. I just don't recommend it. PE turned RE. In the first 10 years, would you add a unit on a lot or look for another property? I have never added a unit, and I don't want to. I don't want to go through the build. Even Michael Zuber has decided he didn't want to because the state of California made it very hard. And my state is just as blue as California, at least in regulation. I'm not a fan of building after doing this burr, and I've called this burr several times, so no one should see this as a shock. This is my first and last burr. Well, I don't ever want to do this again. No, thank you very much. I don't like permits, and I try to keep the vitriol out of my voice when I say this, but here's what I don't like. I do not like having to go to the city and beg for permission to spend money to improve my property. That's stupid. So I would look for another property. Because I've got a triplex where the city has said, hey, please put a fourplex here. We want you to. I don't want to. Look, this bird that I'm doing that I'm wrapping up now, purchased for 400. I'm about 58,000 into rehab, maybe 60 by the time I'm done, maybe. With tips, yeah, it's going to be like 60. So 460. ARV over 750. This is creating hundreds of thousands of dollars that just didn't exist a year ago. That's mine. And it's not worth it. I don't know if I'd do this if it created $1 million. First deal, hunting for financial freedom. If I found a deal that would make $1 million, I'd probably do this. Reaching financial freedom, I don't ever want to do this again. Nope. I want to put roofs on properties. I want to put in new water heaters. I want to do the maintenance and repairs and things that will make it last for at least 20 years. So when I reach that stage and I own or finance all this to Millennial Mike, that's all his problem. Protect your assets for as long as you plan on having them. Like the parent always says, only floss the teeth you're planning on keeping. John, you're here now. I can start. Well, I appreciate that. BuzzTune, will you have a week-long challenge? Who can be the laziest between you and Lumberjack in retirement? I'm going to give him six months to get his legs under him, and then we'll have a lazy challenge. Right now, he's still too. I could tell in the conversations he's still in productive mode. I've got this time. I need to do this, and I'm sitting here going like, if I don't get a solid 3 days where all I see is the inside of a VR helmet, I'm probably going to use the ultimate house hack and end up in prison. Which is not my retirement plan. But yeah, eventually I would like to challenge Matt to who can be lazier. Wealth building journey, BuzzTune. That should be interesting. My money is on suspenseful music plays. Exactly. Joel, great perspective on property class you like for rentals. Golden nuggets here, folks. Thank you. I've done a couple of videos on why I prefer Class C, and there are reasons to prefer Class B. I mean, I think Matt he wants Class B properties, and I don't know if it's C or B areas, but I mean, he wants a lot higher end because in his market, better, and this is why his course is amazing. If his countertops, trim, finishing touches, stuff like that gets a better rent. In my area, I swear, you could have platinum or plywood. You'd get the same rent. I've got a duplex with a friend where one side was completely gutted, rehabbed, everything done high end. 2150, 2150. Rent's rent. The side that needs all of the same stuff done. Know your local market. Rob, when do you start traveling? The plan was to be gone this entire winter. And so now I have this, I'm torn. I'm going to take some small trips this summer, but the summer is the time to be in Washington. That's what I like about being here. You can't see very far, but the scuba here is great. And the weather's great for I hope summer falls on a weekend this year. I want to be out of Washington in the winter. So now, because this rehab took so long, I think I'm going to take short trips this summer. So I'll be taking a road trip with my brothers or, doing a 1 or 2 week things here. But then this winter, so probably October, November, right after monsoon season, I'm going to hit the Thailand for 5 to 6 months. So the winter I'll be gone. That's the current plan. It was supposed to be this last winter, but can you understand why I don't want to do a burr? It cost me 6 months in Thailand. Sam Farho took back messages to make me lose sleep forever and ever and wonder what was said. Lumberjack landlord, that just made me cry. Stop saying that. You are in productive mode. What was your last week? Your last full week of retirement? Court and something else you said this morning. There was a couple of things. That's too much. Rob, Dion, get married or burr again? Which would you be more painful? The marriage part was not the problem. It was the being married and the ending that was a problem. If you start a burr that has some cement work done so you can get rid of the spouse, I think put the two together. Millennial Mike, I'll solve the problem when I buy on seller financing. There you go. That'll become Mike's problems. Sam, when you want to buy a house and the agent says it is stick built and county records doesn't show anything and you call them and they don't know, then one of the lenders tells me the lock, it's like manufactured home, and your electrician tells you it's a mobile home too. How do you tell and make your decision? Does it being a mobile home stop you? Like if you can get lending on it, if your lender goes, it'll rent out. Like my brother, I think he's got 3 stick built and the rest are mobile homes, uh, gets the same rent, right? And there might be a small adjustment. You could check with your local housing authority if they treat mobile homes differently. The things I don't like about mobile homes is if it's in a trailer park, right? Unless I own the trailer park. Or if it's been moved more than twice and you can't get lending on it, right? Know what under your thing. So if you have that going, I would have no problem buying a mobile home. My brother loves them. He says it's so much easier to work on. Everything's the same. Everything's electric the same. All the heating systems work the same. All the walls and ceilings work exactly the same. He's got a project going on right now because he's stupid. Won't hire somebody to do it. Um, all new drywall, replacing the paneling, putting in new roofs, re-insulating and everything, doing it all himself. And it's like kindergarten simple because it's all exactly the same. He prefers them. So is there one that you like and one that you don't? And do you have a valid reason, or is it some opinion that you have because somebody else said, I would never own a trailer because it's trailer trash or white trash or whatever you want to think there, but people that pay rent. And this is something else, and I've said this before in a video a long time ago. My brother bought his first property, which was 3 stick-built homes on one property. So it's a triplex, one property. One of them was nice. 2 of them needed a lot of work. And my brother has the craftsman skills to do it. Did all the work himself. I think. I'm sure he hired, if you're listening, government, I'm sure my brother hired an electrician and a plumber for the stuff that needed to have permits. My dad went there. Now, my dad never owned rentals or property. He did house hack. He had the ultimate house hack going on just before he passed away. I'll share that one night when I have too much of the water. But he was trying to insult my brother because that's how my family shows love and support. He looked at the houses that needed a lot of work, and my dad said he was trying to be insulting, and he didn't realize he was teaching my brother a very valuable lesson. Because my brother was maybe 20 at the time, maybe a little older, I think. Yeah, he'd have been early 20s. My dad said, man, people will rent anything. And my brother was like, yeah, they'll rent anything. This is great. They will rent mobile homes. They will rent stick builts. It's easier to maintain mobile homes, probably. They probably don't last hundreds of years like a stick built, but will you? Nalair, howdy. Looking like always, Dion Millennial Mike chatted with Paul, gave me a great resource to close my sub-2 deal. Awesome. Congratulations. Court, then IRS, then lawsuit. I expect retirement to slow down drastically. I would hope it does. I'm trying to think. It's been my busiest time since retiring. Nope, putting together the binder course was probably the most busy time. I've been to court for other people, not for myself. So, Sam, I'll solve any problem, but I'm on rides with kids now, so not today. There you go. Cool. And I will give you a second to see if there are any other questions to ask. Next week, I have a guest coming on who is investing in Oregon, which is a state that has rent control and some other issues that happen. They are putting on an event that I am speaking at, that Millennial Mike is speaking at, that Michael Zuber is presenting at, that Cody and Christian are there, they're co-hosting. So we're going to get all of those details next Tuesday, and we get to pick his brain. Because I'm always curious to see what other investors will say to the answers to some of these questions, because we do disagree on certain things, right? Matt's used very different strategies than me. Neither one is right. Each had different goals, different end goals, but there is something you can take away from it. So lumberjack mobile homes are cool, but they are seen as a depreciable asset, not like a real house. I agree, but they can still give you real financial freedom. PE turned RE, you will be at that event. Awesome. I look to see you there. So if anybody else is going to be in Vancouver on May 3rd and 4th, you should look up the Northwest Action Summit. Yeah, most places won't finance. So there was a period of time in Washington where they wouldn't finance over 10 years old. And then they had a thing where if it's been moved twice. And now there are lenders that are like, it could be from the 1800s. It could be on its 17th move. We're just lending on anything. So know what the current loss. And that's the risk. What if you go to sell it in 7 years and lenders aren't lending on mobile homes? Now the price is gone. The appreciation is almost exactly the same as a stick built when lending is the same. But when lending goes away, which can happen at any time, so does the price. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me on a Tuesday. I have a video coming up Thursday on if you don't answer this question, you will never retire. And it isn't. What is your freedom number? What are you retiring to? It is the actual question that will let you retire. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.